Hello music makers, welcome back. Over the years I've had a lot of questions like this one from Shred Life, asking what to do with the sub when you have a rolling bass line. By the way, for those who don't know what a rolling bass is, it's this kind of thing. Fast-paced and pretty constant, common in genres like techno, trance, and you do see it in house crossover genres like tech house as well. So, what's the big deal, some of you may ask? Doesn't the sub just follow the bass, like in most cases? Well, actually, it's not that simple. There's a reason this question gets asked a lot, because if you don't make special considerations for your sub in bass lines at this pace, you can cause yourself a lot of headaches further down the line. Let's have a look, shall we? Okie dokie, let's start with the most simple rolling bass we can make. Just going to draw 16 notes across the grid here. Now, if you have a sound that has a lot of attack, like the one we have here, that should sound okay. Now, for those new to this, or have never heard this technique before, what you're actually hearing now is the upper bass part. There's another bass part to go under this called the sub bass. The reason we do this is to give us better control of the low end. If you want to know more in detail, I've discussed this technique in 2 videos now. I'll link them in the description. Anyway, what normally happens when we do this is we copy the bass part across like so. The idea being the sub is playing the same musical part, but it's just covering a different frequency range, the sub range. That's why it's common just to use a simple sine wave. That sounds like this. By the way, you'll need good speakers or headphones to hear this. So it's just playing the very lowest part of the sound, what we call the fundamental. Here's both of them together. Here's without the sub. With. And now if we listen with drums, provided we have our side chains set up correctly, this should all work out. Okay, so that's the basics. Now, those of you with experience and/or a good listening environment may have already heard the problem. For those that didn't, let me just play all that back again, but now let's just highlight only the low frequencies of everything. If you can't hear the problem yet, let me show you a counter example. And in fact, let me bring the tempo down too. We're up at 138 BPM right now, and that's not helping. Let's go down to, say, 130. Here's a more typical kind of house pattern. Now let's listen to the lower frequencies of that. Can you hear that? We have space, we have groove. The rhythm the upper bass is playing, we can still hear that groove all the way down in the subs. Now let's go back to our original tempo and listen to the sub-frequencies of that rolling bass line again. Did you hear? It's just one long drone. Now, if the intention is to have this track played back on a big system, like a club, or even just a good car system, we have to be aware of this. A big, long, solid bass tone can be impressive in certain cases, but rarely for the basis of the groove of the entire track. In my experience, that's going to get very fatiguing very fast. I'm sure you've experienced yourself how many commercial systems overhype the low end. So if you don't want to risk losing your audience, we have to factor this kind of thing in. You might be starting to see why the problem is prevalent in rolling bass lines. There's so much less space to play with. And of course, the higher the tempo, the less space between each note as well. So what can we do about it? Your first simple option is just to reduce note length. Let's create some space down there. Something like that should do the job. Now let's listen to the lower frequencies again. Good, we've got some definition back. By the way, quick warning, when you're dealing with lower frequencies like this, be very careful with the start and end times of your envelopes, because down here at these frequencies, waveforms get very long. And for us to be able to hear the pitch of a note, it must complete at least one cycle. If you cut off a note mid-cycle, you're going to get a click, basically because you've temporarily created a square wave. And that becomes like a second transient, adding extra rhythms where we don't want them. And as our notes are no longer joined up because we're shortening them to add definition, it starts to get really messy. Have a listen. Keep in mind, this is going to depend on the key of your track, because lower notes have longer waveforms. Tracks in the lower keys, like E, E flat, D, might need as much as 30 milliseconds on the release. While we're on the subject of envelopes, this is one of the aspects Shredlife was asking about in their question. How about creating clarity with a different shape of envelope, like a more pluck-shaped envelope, for example? Luckily for us, both Vital and Serum show the position of the envelope as it plays back. That way we can judge how long our decay time needs to be. Looks like it gets to about here before it re-triggers. So the theory being, by the end of the sound, it's a little quieter instead of one continuous level. First of all, I'm going to re-extend those notes, then we can judge what effect this is having on its own first. Let's have a listen. And just the lows of everything. As you can hear, we do get some clarity back in terms of rhythm. However, we do lose some low-end weight overall. You might say, well, just turn it up to compensate, but now you're losing a lot of headroom because the transient of the sub is now a lot louder. Also consider how insensitive a commercial system tends to be in the sub-range. This shape might have to be quite extreme to make an audible difference in the real world. I think shortening the note length is a more effective way of doing the same thing, without the loss of as much weight. However, listening to both those techniques, a new problem is highlighted. Well, it's only a problem if it's not intentional. But what we now have to ask is, do we even want a 16th groove down there in the subs? Is that what we want to be moving people on the floor? This is another one of those problems which is exacerbated in lower keys. I call it the machine gun effect. Let me explain what it is. Of course, all of your bass considerations also heavily depend on the kick drum. In the case of rolling bass, you might find yourself in this situation. You might have a nice, punchy, fairly short kick, similar to the one we have here. And as you may have heard me say many times on this channel, it's perfectly okay or even preferable for that kick not to be tuned to the key of the track, as many kicks can't actually be tuned to a musical note. Now, in tracks that are in quite low keys, you can have situations where the kick is landing at higher frequencies than the bass subs. Not a problem in itself. But if you consider the pulse that you're sending out onto the dance floor, in the case of rolling bass, if your subs are the lowest frequency, do you want your audience to be dancing to because yes, we'll be sidechaining, but the lowest dominant groove will now be that bass pattern. Let me put it this way. Here's a 16th drum pattern. It's the same pace as our rolling bass, but it's the hi-hats which are carrying that pace. Not every drum has to follow that pattern, right? Our kick provides the 4-on-the-4 pulse, whereas the top percussion is free to do a different type of rhythm. We can also apply this to our bass. Our upper bass, the one with the attack, the one with some high frequencies, that is already providing our pace. By having the sub match that pace, it's almost like having a drum pattern with 16 kicks. Sure, we can play with velocities and lengths, but we still have to ask, is that the groove we want as our low pulse? 16th kicks are common in certain genres, metal, for example, but I wouldn't expect a typical club crowd to start headbanging. So, with that in mind, what are our options? As it turns out, quite a lot of options. Now we're free from the constraints of copying the upper bass pace. We can almost do whatever we like. One common option is just eighths. To prevent the mess that 16ths might cause down there, we can just half the number of sub-pulses. Let's listen to our sub-frequencies with that rhythm. Good stuff. Or, another common option is to just make the subtone an extension of the kick. Just use quarter notes. Be sure to play around with the length to get the groove you want. This way you can have the effect of a long, tuned kick drum. Let's hear what's going on in the lows for that. Solid. Both of those are great options if you just want a good, square, tough pulse down there. Now, what if you wanted a bit more bounce, a bit more groove? Here's a thought. Imagine we have a rolling bass that has some accents in it. If I change the velocities on this part so we accent what's called the 3-3-2 pattern, like this. In other words, not every note is the same level. There's an accent rhythm within the 16ths. Or another way of accenting might be that there's an octave or another note in there somewhere. Something like that. Well, now, one thing we can do with the subs is back up those accents. Again, if it's not too busy. So if I put sub notes on the 3-3-2 rhythm, that can also work. Listen to what that does to the groove of our sub range. It almost sounds like we've got a tom pattern in there. It's the best of both, right? Now we have a nice bouncy groove in the subs, but the rolling bass, matched with any percussion we might have, is still driving that pace. Side note, by the way, if your bass line does swap octaves, your sub doesn't have to. If you're trying to keep the low end consistent and solid, leave it on the same octave. Obviously, experiment with both, see which groove you prefer. Well, I hope you learned something. If you did, you know what to do. Or if you're feeling extra generous, there's a link in the description to buy me a coffee. But until next video, I will see you down there in the comments. Bye-bye.